flirting with disaster. Cedric's heartbeat quickened as he took the first step in breaking the vows he held sacred. His hands caressed Michelle's curvy hips for the first time. Her voluptuous body was soft and warm under his fingertips. Her perfume and natural body scent combined to create an intoxicating aroma. Pulling her close until their bodies were inseparable, he closed his eyes and tasted her luscious lips. They were sweet like a summer peach. His index fingers hooked under the straps of her sundress, and he slipped it off and let it fall to the floor. Her body was magnificent to his eyes. Cedric's lips moved to her neck, sucking her skin tenderly. Slowly dropping to his knees, he continued to kiss her all the way down to her navel as he slipped off her panties. Michelle returned the favor, caressing the back of his head as she guided him to his feet. Licking her lips, she unbuttoned his shirt. With a sly grin, she placed the tip of her fingers on his stomach and slid it down to his belt buckle. She ripped it off and tossed it across the room. Then she unbuckled his pants and pulled down his zipper with delight. Her small hands stroked his thighs as he stepped out of his slacks. Fully aroused, Cedric slid off his boxer briefs and took her into his arms once again. He was now at the point of no return, about to breaking one of the oldest unwritten rules of them all, cheating on his wife with his co-worker. That happens to be his boss. But thinking clearly was out the question, since all the blood had left his head and settled in his third leg. Just as he was about to enter Michelle, his alarm went off, waking him up from his dream. Cedric's eyes popped open as they focused on the clock. He fumbled around until he hit the button to stop the annoying ring. He reached for his wife, Stephanie, but she was already up. As he regained his thoughts, he realized it was his 40th birthday. Smiling, he sat up in bed and stretched his arms. Looking down, he realized he had a morning wood from his wet dream. So he stayed in bed, waiting for it to subside. Propping himself up on the headboard, he could see his wife getting dressed. Stephanie was the love of his life, his rock, his biggest fan, and a wonderful mother to their kids. Still, Stephanie in the looks department was the antithesis of Michelle from his wet dream. Stephanie had put on weight and had stretch marks over the 15 years they'd been married. Michelle was a size 6 and shaped like a Coke bottle. Stephanie's hair is always in a ponytail. Michelle's hair is laid every day. Stephanie doesn't dress sexy anymore, mostly wearing sweats when she's not at work. Michelle looks like she goes shopping the same place as Olivia Pope from Scandal. It was easy to see how his imagination got carried away at times. "Good morning," Stephanie said, walking out the bathroom. She was fully dressed in a conservative pantsuit as usual, and slingback heels to match. "Morning," Cedric responded, still grinning. "You know what today is, baby?" "Sure," she replied, grabbing her keys and purse. "I got that big meeting this afternoon to close the Hill account, so I don't have time to make breakfast. You'll have to grab something on the way to work, and make sure the kids get to school on time." Stephanie gave him a quick peck on the cheek before darting out the door. "Gotta run, babe. Love you. Bye." "Love you too, but," Cedric said, trying to remind her it's his birthday. But she was halfway down the hall before he could finish his sentence. Feeling a little sour, Cedric got dressed and went downstairs. He saw his daughter Ashley and his son Cedric Jr. at the kitchen table eating Lucky Charms with their faces buried in their phones. "Good morning," Cedric said, kissing Ashley on the forehead. Every time he sees her cute chocolate face, he's reminded of her mother when they met. Ashley was truly Daddy's little girl, and he spoiled her every chance he got. He stepped over and messed with the Junior's dreadlocks before playfully punching him in the arm. Cedric used to kiss Junior on the forehead too, but once he got to high school, Junior wasn't having it. Cedric and Junior not only had the same name, but they also looked the same too. Tall, slim, dark brown complexion with thick eyebrows. The only difference between the two was Cedric's beard. "Morning, Dad," both kids said in unison. Cedric flashed a big smile and asked, "You guys know what today is?" Ashley got up from the table and emptied her bowl in the sink. "Yeah, I have a piano recital tonight. I need some extra practice, so I gotta run. Bye, Daddy," she said, grabbing her backpack and rushing out the back door toward the bus stop. "I gotta run too. We got a big game with Central Friday. Coach says I need to work on my free throws, so me and Damon are going in early to work on our game," Junior said, dumping his bowl in the sink too. Then he heard a car horn. "That's my ride. See you later, Dad." Junior darted out the back door too. Cedric could hardly get a word out before the kids were out the door too. "Nobody remembered my birthday? Damn," he thought to himself. Shaking his head, he checked his phone to look for any birthday messages. None. No text from friends. Not even his mother and father had reached out yet. Miffed, Cedric hopped in the car and went to work. He walked into the building and received a customary greeting from Jasmine, the office secretary. The blonde beauty was easy on the eyes, which didn't hurt her chances of getting the position, but nobody in the company worked harder and brought more energy to the workplace than Jasmine. Her bright smile and enthusiasm were infectious. She was an extra stimulant on top of his latte that got his day going. Surely she'll remember, he thought to himself. Good morning, Jasmine. I don't suppose you know what today is? Cedric asked with a bit of hope in his voice. Jasmine flashed a warm smile. Of course. You have a 10 o'clock conference call. Don't worry, I got you covered. The meeting room is already set up and the information packets are on the table. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Thanks, Cedric said with fail smile. Slump shoulders, Cedric made his way into his office and plopped down in his chair. He did his work and had a successful conference call. Then around lunchtime, he walked down the hall to the break room. That's when he heard a familiar voice call out from across the hall, Cedric turned around slowly with his eyes on the floor. The first thing he noticed were manicured toes with French tips and some stilettos. His eyes maneuvered their way up a pair of sexy caramel-colored legs that were well oiled, past her skirt that had a slight slit and gave a glimpse of those sexy thighs, up to the beautiful face of the woman that appears in his nightly dreams, Michelle. Cedric stared into her butterscotch eyes before finally replying, Michelle, I didn't see you standing there. What's up? Michelle stepped out of her office, casually leaned against the door jamb, and flashed a dimple-filled smile. You got a minute? Yeah, Cedric answered, nodding his head. Michelle motioned for him to follow her into her office. Cedric stepped in and she closed the door behind them. Happy birthday, she said with her arms out, welcoming Cedric in for a hug. Cedric eagerly accepted her invitation. He wrapped his arms around her and thoroughly enjoyed the embrace. Never being this close, he jumped at the opportunity to take a quick sniff of her aroma. It was everything he ever imagined. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, he said as he reluctantly released her. You're welcome, Michelle replied jovially. Cedric smiled as he said, You're the first person to wish me a happy birthday. Really? Well, let me be the first to give you a gift as well, Michelle said, leaning against her desk. Cedric rubbed his hands together, giddy with excitement. You got me a gift? That's very nice of you. Yeah, I thought I would treat you to a birthday lunch. You've been working for me for over a year now, and we've never broke bread. What do you say? Cedric's eyes glanced down for a second to see her legs cross sexy-like. He had to look up quickly before his eyes started a conversation with her thighs. He nodded his head and said, That sounds great. They hopped in Michelle's BMW and went to a little bistro a couple of blocks over. The waitress sat them in a dark booth in the far corner of the restaurant. It was a nice, cozy atmosphere with soft jazz music playing in the background. The waitress set the menus down on the candlelit table and left to get them some water. I never been here before, Cedric commented as he looked around. Nice place. You come here often? Yeah, I've been here on a couple of dates before. I like the food more than I did the company, she joked as she cracked open the menu. Oh, so are you seeing anybody now? Cedric said, leaning forward, hanging on her every word. Nah, it seems all the good men are taken. Nothing out here for a sister, she replied, shaking her head. Licking his lips, Cedric said, That's a shame. Michelle looked deep into his eyes and said, I need to find a good, hard-working, handsome man like yourself, she said with a wink and a smile. I'm flattered, Cedric said as he cracked a three-quarter smile, but I wouldn't figure you would have any trouble meeting guys. Meeting guys? No. Meeting quality men. Hell yes, she said emphatically. Then she flashed a grin and joked, Tell your wife to look out. I might have to snap you up if this continues. Cedric laughed along at first, then he looked at her side-eye, wondering if there was any truth in those words. The waitress came back and broke up the conversation. She placed the water on the table and pulled out her notepad, ready to take their order. What can I get you? Yes, I'll have a Greek salad, Michelle responded, and I'll have the grilled tilapia and rice, Cedric added. The waitress scribbled down the order. And to drink? Michelle flashed a devilish grin. Why don't we order a bottle of wine? I won't tell if you won't, she said with a wink. Bring us a bottle of Terradoro 2003. Coming right up, the waitress responded quickly, retrieving the bottle of wine and pouring them both a glass. Michelle swirled her wine around and sniffed it like a true aristocrat as she said, "How about a toast?" "Okay," Cedric said, raising his glass. "To possibilities," she said, clinking glasses with him. Cedric sipped his wine while his eyes were focused on her lips. Her full, luscious lips covered in a thin layer of lip gloss and wrapped around the edge of her wine glass while she sipped her drink. She did a little shimmy to show the tingle of the wine as it slid down her throat. Cedric felt a similar tingle, but it wasn't from the wine. It was the blood slowly making its way down to his dick. "You like?" Michelle asked. "This tastes pretty damn good. You know your wine, don't you?" Cedric commented. "This is my favorite. I like to have a glass while soaking in a hot bubble bath and listening to some Luther Vandross. It's my piece of paradise after a stressful day," Michelle said with her eyes closed as if she was in that tub right now. Cedric could visualize that scene as well, her sexy body all soapy and wet sliding around in a tub. He could see himself sharing that tub with her, caressing those manicured feet, making sure that every nook and cranny of her magnificent body was clean to absolute perfection, making love in the tub until the bubbles go flat. He locked eyes with her as she smiled back at him. Cedric sat there sipping his drink. He couldn't help but to ask himself, "Is she coming on to me? Nah." "Cedric," Michelle said, trying to get his attention. So deep in his fantasy, he didn't notice that waitress was trying to place his plate in front of him. "Oh, I'm sorry, I was just thinking about something. Excuse me," he said, moving his salad bowl out the way and accepting his entree. They continued to eat and drink. Then after Michelle picked up the check, she turned to Cedric and asked, "You mind if we go by my place real quick?" "Sure," Cedric replied, wondering where this was going. They hopped back in her car and made their way to her downtown townhouse, not too far from the job. Pulling up front, Michelle killed the engine and asked, "You mind coming in with me?" "Ah, yeah," Cedric said, stumbling over his words. He followed her into the lavish apartment that was exquisitely decorated, and the furniture and all the accessories were all white. It looked like Tommy's house in the movie Belly. The aroma was delightful, some combination of cherry and vanilla. Cedric was scared to take a seat. He didn't want to mess anything up. "You okay?" Michelle asked, gently touching his shoulder. Yeah, I'm fine. It's just this house," Cedric said, spinning around, getting a full view of the place. "It's beautiful." "Thank you. Make yourself at home. I gotta go in the back," she said softly, pushing him onto the couch. "I have another surprise for you, and I think you're really going to love it." She winked at him before sashaying off to the back bedroom. Cedric thought to himself, "Oh shit, she does want me. It's about to go down." Closing his eyes, he imagined that she was back there running the bathwater and putting on some Luther. She was going to come out any minute wearing only a bathrobe and invite him to join her. He need to hurry up and get ready. Without a second thought, Cedric kicked off his shoes, stripped off his shirt and pants, popped a Tic Tac in his mouth to make sure his breath was fresh, and took a seat on the couch, ready for the encounter of a lifetime. His dick was harder than U.S. steel. "Surprise!" was yelled in unison as Cedric's family and friends came running out that back room. Stephanie, Ashley, Jr., his parents, even Jasmine from the office filled the room holding balloons and party favors. Cedric's heart nearly jumped out his chest. He had to be the only man in the history of creation to experience 4 emotions simultaneously. Cedric was shocked that he had a surprise birthday, happy that his family and friends remembered, embarrassed that he was butt naked on a couch with a rock-hard dick, and stricken with fear of what his wife is going to think as he saw the face of Stephanie and the rest of his loved ones with their jaws on the floor. He grabbed his clothes to shield his naked body and stuttered the famous words, "You see, what had happened was..." The end. Thanks for watching. If you like this content, hit like, share, and subscribe. And check out my latest novel, Loyal to a Fault, on Amazon or wherever books are sold.